The chapter was founded in 1871, and it was really pretty much a group of fellow architects getting together to say that they had a career, a profession, and that profession needed to be recognized. And they put themselves pretty much into the same guild hall, as I call it, the American Institute of Architects, which had formed in other cities. And they formed their own chapter here and started to have meetings and started to address the problems of the building code in the city and problems of how architects are hired and compensation there too. Before this time, the profession was pretty loosely organized and not really held to a sort of a code of ethics and a standard of practice that they felt was necessary, given that so much was going on in the 1870s in building of Baltimore. So it seemed the appropriate time to do that. Richard Upjohn, who was in town in the 1850s, designing St. Paul's Church, Old St. Paul's Church at Saratoga and Charles Street. He was an out-of-towner. He went on down to Washington to found the National AIA, but our charter, the chapter charter, is signed by Richard Upjohn, and that's quite a relic to have. So anyway, I think there was a need for these guys to get together, and I think they did so in friendly conviviality of probably a meeting and then some cocktails. I'm not sure of that, but that's how it was. That's how some of the stories have been related to me over the years. That the chapter was kind of like a fraternity, and I mean that men only. And it wasn't until Barbara Wilkes was one of our first female, I think, our first female president of the chapter, that time and that day and age changed. John Orrick is no longer with us, but he used to talk about how important the AIA chapter was to him and to his fellow architects. He was part of the post-World War II vintage architects who came back after the war and really lost 4 or 5 years of their life, but started up again when they got out of the military. By the way, the military figures too, with Palmer and Lambden and a few others of the 1916, the World War I vintage. They went to war and they came back and they said, well, now it's time to build Baltimore back, although we were certainly unscathed, but the profession was hard hit by World War I and World War II. The one thing that caught my eye recently was how much of mid-century modern we have in Baltimore, at least in the residential market, out in the Green Spring and Worthington valleys, and how these fellows like Charlie Richter had a modernist house, Charlie Ness had a very modernist house, Dick Ayers. Everybody was following what Alex Cochran started after World War II when Alex came to town. I don't think it's no secret that he was a modernist. He had gone to Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. He got his education pretty well covered. I mean, I remember just at the chapter level, there was great interest, is why we pretty much started the Baltimore Architecture Foundation. There was a lot of interest from the public in the great buildings of downtown. There were also architectural firms that were hanging up their practice and they didn't know what to do with their drawings. So we helped find homes for them. So that was kind of fun to do. There was an awareness going on. The architects were experimenting here locally. Gosh, I'm trying to remember the dates of all of it. We've got Charlie Brickbauer's USF&G glass box out there in Mount Washington, which is cutting edge and very exciting building. I think it's now Piper Marbury law firm. Trying to think down in the Inner Harbor, we really started expanding out towards a whole new inner city in our Harbor East. That was exciting. I can't remember the exact time when I think the aquarium came in the 80s, as did Harbor Place, but soon thereafter we got the stadium. But we are one of the oldest, and we have a very rich history, including 3 of our past presidents of the local chapter became national presidents, Jimmy Edmonds, Charlie Ness, and Archie Rogers. And we have some vice presidents living today. Ed Hord was a vice president. Leon Bridges was a vice president of national. So the roots of the profession are deep here, and I think they're very proud. We should celebrate those.